I guess very few of us get the opportunity to indulge in our childhood dreams. But I just remember when I was 10 years old, a born car enthusiast like many of you, sitting down playing with many of my little toy cars. But I had a very special one, and it was a little corgi car, and it was the Citroen SM. It was metallic green with a blue interior. That car for me was magic. Even as a model, it just looked so unbelievably different to every other little car that I played with. Who would have thought that some 40 years later, I'd be able to drive the real thing? Right, so I've waited 40 years for this, so now you know how old I am. But I'm just so excited because here we are with the real thing, the icon, the Citroen SM. And I'm not disappointed, in fact, I'm even more excited. The features on this car are just totally sensational for 1970, when the car first came out. Not least, of course, and most obviously, these glass-coloured headlamps. Now, these are interesting for all sorts of reasons. One is they're heated, and secondly, they swivel around in the centre there. So everywhere you turn the wheel, the lights actually go ahead of you and look around the corner or light up the corner for you. Now that was quite revolutionary for the time. Mainstream it is in many cars now, but for the time it was a first. Not only that, we've got this beautiful aerodynamic design, which achieved a drag coefficient of about 0.27. Now that was exceptional by any standards and revolutionary by 1970 standards. If you compare this to a modern car, maybe a new Prius for example, even that can't achieve the 0.27 that this has achieved. So this car was already making its mark in 1970 in a really big way. So this lovely design is rounded off beautifully at the back. You would think it's all about style, this car, but it's equally about practicality. You just take one look in here and you've got all the space you need for a continental weekend. There's just one more feature I must tell you about before we go out and drive this car, and it's these extra lightweight wheels, carbon reinforced resin wheels they're called. Now these wheels today would cost you about £6,000. This car is still seriously expensive. In its day, it cost the same kind of money as Italian and German thoroughbreds, such as the Ferrari Dino 246 GT, the Porsche 911 and the BMW 3-litre CSL. Yet the SM was actually designed to compete with two-door luxury coupes costing maybe £1,800 to £2,000, whereas this car was selling for over £5,000. And there is no better place to appreciate the qualities of the SM than driving through the grounds and countryside around Whittlebury Park Golf and Country Club in Towcester. Okay, so this is my first drive in the Citroen SM. Now, I just wanted to come to this really afresh, just to see what it's like, because I've heard of all sorts of rumours about the car being difficult to drive, but it actually really feels quite user-friendly. And I really like the rasp you get from that V6 Maserati engine. The SM was originally introduced with a carburetted 2.7 Maserati V6 engine, officially capable of a 0 to 60 time of around 8.5 seconds and a top speed of 137 miles an hour. Citroen later modified the engine to Bosch K electronic injection, replacing the carburetors to help overcome emissions regulations. Later, the power was uprated to 3 litres to boost performance. It's quite a progressively responsive car. It encourages you to drive it with a little bit of sporting finesse. So as we can see, this car had a number of groundbreaking features on the outside, but there's quite a lot under the bonnet as well. And a lot that you can't see that's really special, not least the hydropneumatic suspension. First of all, we're on quite a bumpy country road here, yet as you can hopefully see, we've got a lovely cosseted ride. The suspension changes according to speed, so the more speed we have is the lower the suspension goes, and as we get slower it gets higher for comfort, so it's actually quite intelligent. Those pneumatics flow straight through, of course, as well. There is this connection with the steering. Now the steering is speed sensitive and self-centering, Another first for Citroen. Remember, this is the first time this sort of system came to the market, and I have to say, yes, you'd have to get used to it because you wouldn't have driven a car with it before, but once you do, it's a bit sharp on the bends, but you do get used to it, and as you pick up speed with the car, it gets firmer and more confidence inspiring. Now, another feature about this car is the hydraulic braking. Most of us are just used to having a standard brake pedal in the middle, but what we've got here is basically a little bobble. And on that bobble, when you press it, because it's hydraulic, it is said that it can be rather sharp. So I'm just going to try it. We're in a straight line. Let's just see what it's like to brake. Quite normal, actually. Don't see a problem with it at all. I do love this 5-speed gearbox. It actually was a first for Citroen, and it's got a lovely feel to it. It's nicely weighted, and in third gear you've got nice progressive acceleration, which allows you to make the most of the rasp of that lovely V6 engine. It has been criticised for too much vibration at low speed and that sort of thing, but actually when it's on the move it works really well, and the car gives you a beautiful progressive drive. So we've got a lovely straight ahead of us here, can pick up speed. I'm not really bothered about the bumps anymore and really enjoy myself, and that's what you should be doing with a car like this. It's a sporting, long-distance intercontinental cruiser. Right, so how do I feel about driving my Icon? Well, they say don't meet your heroes, but this is one hero I'm so pleased to have met. Now that I've had about 5 or 6 miles to get acquainted with the car, I am thoroughly enjoying it, and for me, if I could afford it, it would be my everyday car. I actually quite like the quirky feel to the brakes. I'm enjoying controlling the steering and adjusting myself to it. I'm enjoying the engagement that having a gear stick gives you with a car like this. This is a piece of genius that for some reason just did not deserve to fail, because it is so good and it is so much fun. I really don't understand why it just did not catch on, and I suspect it just didn't catch on because not enough people could actually afford to indulge in the experience. And it's such a shame that Citroen did not have more success with this absolute piece of genius. And quite frankly, I love it. I do love it. And the hero is everything I expected it to be, and I don't really want to give it back.